Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah, and today I want to share a heartbreaking story about a mother, a son, jealousy, bad influences, and a painful lesson that came far too late. This is a story about how one good son allowed the wrong people to poison his heart against the woman who loved him most. Emma was a widow who had spent nearly 20 years raising her only son, Daniel. Life had never been easy for her. After losing her husband, she worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table and make sure Daniel never felt the absence of a father too deeply. She skipped vacations, ignored her own health, and sacrificed every dream she had so her son could have a better future. And for many years, Daniel appreciated everything. He was kind, respectful, and hardworking. Whenever someone praised him, he would smile and say, "Everything I am is because of my mom." Those words were Emma's greatest reward. As time passed, Daniel graduated from college and landed a high-paying job. Emma felt proud. She believed all her sacrifices had finally paid off, but success brought new people into Daniel's life. At work, he became friends with a group of wealthy young men. They loved expensive cars, luxury vacations, and showing off their lifestyles. At first, Daniel simply enjoyed their company, but slowly their words began changing him. One afternoon, his friends were discussing their families when someone laughed and said, "Imagine still listening to your mother as an adult." Another added, "My parents are old-fashioned. I keep my distance." The others nodded in agreement. Daniel laughed along, even though the comments made him uncomfortable. Over time, those conversations became more frequent. His friends constantly mocked people who stayed close to their parents. They called them weak and immature. Little by little, Daniel began feeling embarrassed whenever Emma called him. He stopped answering her messages. He started avoiding family dinners. When Emma asked if something was wrong, he simply replied, "I'm busy." But the truth was much deeper. Jealousy had quietly entered the hearts of some of Daniel's friends. Unlike them, Daniel had a loving mother who supported him unconditionally. They had grown up in broken homes and secretly resented the bond he shared with Emma. Instead of appreciating it, they convinced him that his mother's love was holding him back. And tragically, Daniel believed them. Months passed. Emma noticed the distance growing between them. The son who once called every day now barely spoke to her. The house felt empty. The silence became painful. One evening, Emma prepared Daniel's favorite meal and invited him for dinner. He arrived late. The moment he walked in, he seemed irritated. As Emma served his plate, she gently asked, "Daniel, have I done something wrong?" The question should have broken his heart. Instead, years of influence from his friends exploded from his mouth. "You treat me like a child." Emma looked confused. "What do you mean?" "You are always checking on me, always calling me, always asking questions. I only care about you." "That's the problem," he snapped. "You care too much." The room fell silent. Emma stared at her son in disbelief. Then Daniel said words he would regret for the rest of his life. "Maybe if Dad were still alive, you wouldn't be so obsessed with me." The moment the words left his mouth, Emma's face turned pale. It felt as though someone had stabbed her heart. She lowered her eyes and quietly whispered, "I'm sorry you feel that way." That night, she cried herself to sleep. Daniel left without looking back. The next morning, he told his friends what had happened. Instead of correcting him, they laughed. They praised him for finally standing up to his mother. Daniel convinced himself he had done the right thing, but deep inside, something didn't feel right. A few weeks later, Emma suffered a serious health emergency. She collapsed at home and was rushed to the hospital. Daniel received multiple calls but ignored them, assuming they were from his mother. Hours later, a neighbor finally reached him. The news shattered him. He rushed to the hospital. When he arrived, he saw his mother lying in a hospital bed, weak and exhausted. For the first time in months, he truly looked at her. The wrinkles, the tired eyes, the gray hair. The woman who had sacrificed everything now looked fragile. Suddenly, every memory came flooding back. The nights she stayed awake when he was sick. The extra jobs she worked. The meals she skipped so he could eat. The dreams she abandoned for him. And then he remembered the cruel words he had spoken. Daniel broke down. Tears streamed down his face. He grabbed her hand and whispered, "Mom, I'm so sorry." Emma opened her eyes. Despite everything, she smiled. Because that is what mothers do. They love even when their hearts are broken. For days, Daniel stayed beside her hospital bed. He ignored his friends' messages, and during that time, he realized something painful. The people he had trusted were never truly his friends. They had filled his mind with negativity, jealousy, and resentment. Yet none of them showed up when his world was falling apart. Not one. After Emma recovered, Daniel made a decision. He cut ties with every toxic friend. He focused on rebuilding the relationship he had nearly destroyed, but some wounds never fully disappear. Although Emma forgave him, Daniel carried the weight of his actions forever. The regret remained, not because his mother refused to forgive him, but because he knew he had deeply hurt the one person who had loved him without conditions. Today, whenever Daniel speaks to young people, he shares one lesson. Never let outsiders convince you that love is weakness. Never allow jealousy, pride, or bad influences to turn you against the people who truly care about you. Because one careless moment can create a lifetime of regret. And sometimes, the people we take for granted are the very people we cannot afford to lose. Thank you for listening, and if this story touched your heart, remember to cherish the people who love you while you still have the chance.